where do you look as far as like your inspiration for your shapes for stuff, or is it just a feel thing? Because like you have such a unique classic look with your stuff, and it doesn't like there's that Liberty Walk F40 that just came out that's like very Liberty Walk look, and there's like all these kind of other vibes. Like what is your source of inspiration for this stuff?
So it's funny you ask that. So Tony and I, when we started this, the reason that we were like all aboard, like working together, is because we have a very similar design taste, and that taste is actually to keep it as Porsche as possible. So like our goal, whenever we design anything and build it, is that we want people to think, "Hey, Porsche may actually have made that," or like it's like a. But yeah, they made that. So like when we made the 996 slant nose, the idea. So like when Porsche makes the change like from 996 to 997, for example, or like 997, 991, or whatever, they usually have like a special edition model between that's like the heritage edition, like or whatever else. It's like their speedster or whatever, right? So and usually that special model has like components of the next generation that like they're testing with like facelift and whatnot. So the goal was to make the 996 like the slant nose be like what would have been between the 996 and 997. So we wanted to like ever so slightly modernize it for the era, but also keep it like all look like the flow, the proportions, everything else look like it's Porsche itself. So excuse me, this filter is not doing me any good right now. So for inspiration, we actually sit down and we look at the car and we spend hours just like looking at the car, talking about, okay, like we need to go this much wider. We want to do like maybe a little bit more aggressive or whatever. We want it to be so much that it's like bolt on or whatever. Like it's like giant hips or whatnot, but we want it to actually flow like Porsche would. So we go, okay, so what are wider Porsche cars that Porsche has built, and how can we incorporate those details into this build? So we like pour over Porsche build. So like for the slant nose, for example, we actually used a lot of inspiration from the GT1 and the 935. So you'll see like in the rear hips, the intakes on the quarter panels are very reminiscent to the GT1. The ducktail in the back is like a scaled down version of the GT1. Little things like that. The vents that are behind the wheels in the back, they're like loosely off the GT1. And we also look at, okay, so in the GT1, for example, or any other Porsche, like how did they choose the angles, like the approach lines, everything else for like the scoops and whatnot? And was that based off of another component on the car? Like, because you usually, like when you design a part of a car, right, you borrow theory from everyone else in the car. So like on the slant nose, for example, I remember doing TikTok on this a while ago, and people were like, their minds were blown. So like on the slant nose, we have that little ducktail in the back, and it has like a little curvature to it. So I took a profile of that exact curvature and used that same curvature on the bottom of the diffuser on the little like stakes that stick down. Because sure, it's maybe yes, it's less efficient, but number one, this is not a track car, so it's not going to be 100% efficient. And number two, if you look at the car from the side now, you have two different profiles that have the exact same curvature that is just really appealing to the eye. It's subtle things that like it kind of like we think it brings it to the next level, I guess, and that's something that we think that Porsche would have done as well, because it's a design theory thing. It's to keep things like it's very easy to hyperfixate on one like individual thing. Actually, here's some advice: if you want to design something for a car, figure out what that is. So if you're going to make, say, a diffuser, right? Obviously, you need to like think about that individually, but you need to stand back and look at the car as a whole as well, and make sure that it actually is like incorporating into the entire car. Because if it's too obtuse to the car, it's going to be like something feels really off about this, and I don't know what it is. And it's because maybe you should have angled something like 3 degrees more, and then suddenly it all kind of lines up.
Interesting.
Unless you want it to be abstract to the car, and there is taste to that as well, but usually in the design world, less is more. So like the 928, for example, like. Yeah, it's a lot wider, and there's features about it, but there's only a couple features that are like in your face. The rest of it, it's very subtle, and we want it to be subtle because it kind of complements those main features.
That is really cool. That is great advice, and that's like a good. I was one of the people that I saw that TikTok and was like, "What?" and then was paying attention very closely to other elements of your build too, to just see like where that was happening, because it's just like genius. It's like the obvious genius stuff where you're like, "Oh, of course that should be the same angle when you see it afterwards." That's
like
really
one
cool.
of those things that you don't like. You look at something, you're like, I don't know what. Like layman's eyes, like me over here, looks at something like that and goes, I don't know why that looks so good, but it looks so good. And it's the same reason that other cars that people, garage modify look off. Right. Or like if I've done something on my car and I'm like, I don't know why, but this just it just doesn't, something doesn't fit. Just right.
100%.
And it's that's super cool.